Hi guys, and welcome back to the Early Bird Photo News. I just filled up my car with diesel and man, it's getting really expensive out there. It's almost twice as expensive as a year ago. It currently sits around $2.10 Aussie for a litre of diesel, which is probably still cheaper than in some other countries, but it's definitely getting pretty wild out there. Is it the same where you live? Prices skyrocketing, especially petrol? And with all that's going on at the moment, I'm afraid we probably will see increasing prices for the foreseeable future. A few weeks ago, we talked about Canon raising prices on selected lenses, and now Nikon has also announced a little while ago that they will be raising prices from April 1st. So all orders that are made after February 1st and delivered after April 1st will be affected by the price increases already. Anything ordered before January 31st will not be affected by the new prices. So for now, this is only in Europe, but I would expect that this will also spill over in other countries that Nikon is servicing. The only good news is that cameras like this Z9 are exempt from the price increases because I guess they're pretty new, and so the increased prices are already factored in, so at least there's a little bit of relief there. If you're looking for a Z9, you won't be having to pay anymore. Speaking about the Z9, I still have access to one, so would you be interested in me making more videos about it or with it? Let me know in the comments, and also let me know what you would like to see. I've also access to 500 f4 and 100 to 400, the new version, and a couple of other lenses like a 24 to 70 for instance. So let me know in the comments if you want to see some more Nikon content. We haven't talked about Sony much on this show, but that's mainly because it has been very quiet around Sony and there's not many new rumors coming out about cameras. But there are 2 to 3 cameras expected later this year. The first one will be an AR-75, Sony's new monster megapixel camera, and it seems like Canon and Sony are in a direct competition at the moment to have the camera with the most megapixels. A few weeks ago we talked about a potential 75 megapixel camera coming from Canon, and Sony is rumored to release the AR-75 with over 100 megapixel, breaking that magical number that not many companies have been able to get to so far. So I think that will be quite interesting to see, and it's rumored to still shoot at 10 frames per second, which would be pretty crazy considering 100 megapixel, 10 frames per second. So all in all, quite an interesting sounding camera. Personally, I think it's probably overkill, but it must also be amazing to shoot a bird and then zoom in all the way to the eye at like 100 megapixel. You should be able to see so many details. What do you think about 100 megapixels? Is it crazy, or is it something that would interest you? The definite downside with the 100 megapixels will be that you will need a lot of new and big hard drives. Another camera Sony is apparently working on is a successor to the A9 II and A9 III. And some people thought with the emergence of the A1 there might not be an A9 III, but I think there will definitely still be an A9 III because it's kind of in direct competition with the R3 line that Canon has been creating. There will still be an R1 in the future that will probably rival the Z9 and the A1. So it makes sense for Sony and Canon to also have a dedicated fast low megapixel sports camera. And for Sony that would be the A9 III, and for Canon that's the R3. I would expect the A9 III to have 24 to max 30 megapixels, the same autofocus as the A1, and probably 30 frames per second at least. And I think with those specs it would be a very compelling sports and journalism camera. Do you see a lot of use for an A9 III camera? Is that something that would interest you, or are you like me and you prefer those higher megapixel cameras because it gives you a lot more ability to crop? I know that for sports and photojournalism, the 24 megapixels is more than enough, and if you don't crop much, 24 megapixels is also fine, but personally, I definitely like to have 50 or more megapixels. It will also be interesting to see what kind of features Sony will come up to kind of top what the R3 can currently do, whether it might be like 35 frames per second or some extra video features. I'm not sure at this stage, but I'm sure they would find something that can at least rival or top the R3. Canon this week has released its annual business outlook with a few interesting tidbits for us. One is that they're coming after Sony and attacking that #1 sales spot in mirrorless. So far, Sony had quite a big advantage there because They never made any other cameras, so they were always the number one in mirrorless and mirrorless lenses sales. But Canon is saying that they're definitely aiming to take that spot away from Sony and become the number one in all camera sales, including mirrorless. So for that to happen, I actually think that Canon also has to release a few new lower price cameras. There's the RP and the R at the moment, but both of these cameras seem quite outdated with no IBIS, pretty average kind of autofocusing and very slow frames per second, and also not very fancy video features. So while I understand that the cheaper cameras also have to have less features, I think an upgrade there would definitely help Canon to take up a lot more market share, because there's actually not many cheap full frame mirrorless cameras available at the moment, is there? So I would expect that there will definitely be one or probably two cameras sitting below the R6 in the lineup. An RP successor, definitely under $1,000 with hopefully some better specs, and then also a successor to the R camera. I don't know if it's going to be like an R2 or it's going to be a completely new name, but I would think that there will be something between an RP and the R6, maybe in the $1,500 to $2,000 range. I think that would make a lot of sense. And somewhere in between there, we will likely also see the R7 and APS-C mirrorless camera with hopefully around the 30 megapixel mark and good eye tracking. So I think overall, it's quite an interesting year for Canon, because it's not only going to be the R1, but we don't even know if it's going to be released this year at all. No, but it will also be a lot of lower price cameras that will be very interesting for a lot of you guys. What do you think? Are you looking at the cheaper end of the market? Are you looking in for something like an R7, an R6, or maybe something like a successor to the R camera that has a mix of RP and R6 features? Canon also said that they're planning to expand the RF lineup at the same pace that they've currently been doing, and that's 8 new RF lenses per year. Over the next 4 years, that's an extra 32 RF lenses. Quite an ambitious target, I think, with all the issues that are currently going on in the world, but I think we would be very happy to see a few more nice RF lenses. Where do you think the biggest holes are in the lineup? I definitely see a big hole in the lineup when it comes to shorter, faster prime lenses. There's no 12mm, 24mm, 35mm or 50mm L lenses that are nice and wide and fast. There's a 35mm 1.8, but that's not an L lens, and there's a 50 f1.2 lens that is very, very good, but also very expensive. So I think a lot more variety in those ranges would be very welcomed, and it would also be something that I would be looking at to find another prime lens for filming, for instance. So I would expect to see a few new lenses in that sort of segment, and there might also be lenses coming out like tilt and shift lenses, and hopefully also the lenses that we speculated about a few weeks ago, like a 200 to 500 with a built-in 1.4 extender, or 150 to 600mm lens. Are there any lenses that you currently miss from the Canon RF lens lineup that you would definitely want to see? Let me know in the comments. Interestingly, Canon also mentioned that they will be using design efficiencies to improve profits, and I suspect that's what we actually saw with the 800 and 1200mm lenses that were recently released, because to a large degree they used the design of the f2.8 400 and f4 600mm IF lenses, and then just have the magnification unit at the rear. If you're a bird photographer and love birds like I do and want to get the most out of your RAW files, I would recommend that you check out my Pro Sets and Masterclass in the description, where I teach you step by step how to get the most out of your RAW files and master image editing. Last week I was randomly contacted by 2 different people, and they both told me that they may have found a fix to the R5 freezing issue. I'm not sure whether that's an actual fix or just pure coincidence, but I thought it's worth sharing with you since a lot of you still have issues even after the latest firmware update. And both of these guys said that cleaning these golden contacts on their R5 down here at the bottom and on their lenses actually made a difference, and that after properly cleaning the contacts, they had a lot less freezing issues. Maybe it's worth trying if your R5 freezes up a lot. Hopefully it can help you with dealing with the freezing issues, or maybe even solve the freezing issues. I really hope it does. I'm not sure if it will, but I think it's definitely worth trying. I know there's still a lot of D500 users out there, and Nikon today announced that there will be a new firmware update that fixes a few issues that a few users had. So while the camera is not officially supported anymore, it's still nice to see that Nikon is still giving updates to known issues and help the users of that popular camera. This week, there wasn't as many camera news because with what's going on in the world, but I fully expect to still see at least one new Canon camera in March. Unless something unforeseen happens and Canon decides to delay the launch, but I'm not sure yet if it's going to be an R7 or a different kind of camera, but hopefully the next few weeks will bring some more clarity and some more interesting rumors we can talk about. So make sure to tune in to the next episode of the Early Bird Photo News. Give me a thumbs up for this video. Let me know your thoughts about camera gear in the comments. Also let me know whether you want me to make some more Nikon content. And other than that, subscribe to the channel and I will see you in the next video very soon. Why haven't you subscribed yet? Bye.